Please let me introduce you today, Tim Chrisman from the Foundation for the Future. Tim is the co-founder and executive director of Foundation for the Future. And I'm gonna let Tim tell you about what the foundation's here for, what the purpose is, what they're trying to achieve. But I also wanna highlight that Tim is playing, his organization is playing a critical role in our space and cyber to schools curriculum delivery across the United States and across the globe. So Tim, thank you very much for joining us today. We're excited to hear what your organization's up to, and thank you for joining us on this educational crusade.
Yes, so I'm Tim Chrisman with the Foundation for the Future. I'm going to give you a quick overview on the efforts that we at the Foundation, along with a number of our partners, are working on to build out a nationwide workforce development initiative, really for the rest of us. And we'll get into that more here. Historically, the space workforce development model for the country has been geared by NASA for NASA. And it has been a rocket scientist and engineer heavy under the NASA Space Grant Program. And as we move further into the 21st century and this new space, commercial space era, we're entering a time where space workforce development really isn't a one-size-fits-all sort of model. We don't have the ability, either as educators or the focus nationwide, to be able to adapt existing models of workforce development that we use every day throughout the economy to the space economy. And we here at the Foundation are looking to pioneer a method that doesn't leave out the rest of us, so to speak. We're doing that with a very simple proposition that there should be a way for a child who looks up at space to follow their ambitions to their conclusion and see their dreams realized in space. Right now, that looks like a student trying to be an astronaut or a billionaire. For the vast majority of us, that's not going to happen. And so we're creating this portal by which children, parents, educators, and employers can follow and create a pathway to space. We're doing this by working with schools like Cal Poly to democratize access to space curriculum and educational content. Now, initially, this is going to look very similar to a single portal online where all available upskilling, reskilling, and educational content exists. So whether it's middle school virtual training or a certification by Amazon Web Services, it would be in a single place. So parents, students, and educators can search, can find this, and know what's available. Ultimately, this will be built out further, but the goal really is a simple place to have access to and be able to show anyone of interest what they can do, how they can do it, and demystify the space educational process. We plan on doing this very similar to how the NASA Space Grant Consortium works, or the ROTC program works for Air Force and Space Force. And that's by networking with state schools, with local school districts, and enabling them to better serve the students that they know best. There's no reason why we at the Foundation, who are working across the nation, should be pushing educational standards or even creating the content. The educators know what their students need best. And so we're simply trying to provide access to what content is available and then let the educators use it or not. And we serve as an enabling asset, both in talking with federal and state governments to appropriate money and build out a more robust set of curriculum, but also to smooth access across states and schools. So yeah, I started a little bit alluding to this business model that we've adopted, really building on the work that NASA and others have done, where we are pushing the federal government, starting in fiscal year 23, to create a space grant program for the rest of us, where it's a grant-based system distributed through state, community and technical education colleges, and ultimately to create and provide access to educational and workforce development content nationwide. We're doing this in no small part a partnership with Cal Poly to cross-level the content that exists, distribute that out. And so how we're going to do this is a fairly straightforward 4-step plan and prior military. And so everything's supposed to have easy to follow 3-step plan. We added an extra one so we could be cool. The idea is build a network of schools. We're right now reaching out to schools across the country to simply get a commitment that individual schools want to help bring space education and workforce development to their state. From there, we're doing essentially a census of what educational content is out there, what exists currently, and catalog that all in a single place, organized by grade level, education level, and if it's not virtual, where it's offered, how to find more information, and then direct links. We don't want to, as I said earlier, host or create the content ourselves. There's smarter, better people doing that. We want to provide access in a single place for people to be able to search. Once we've completed that census, then we know what exists and what the needs are. And we can start working with state, local, and federal governments and nonprofits to close the gap that we've seen. Find out what is it that local schools need and want and that isn't available in the network. Or find out what is in the network but needs to be licensed or exported or modified. And that's the step 3 here. And then the 4th is integrating this pipeline with employers. We've already talked with several, including Voyager Space Holding, to have an endpoint for these students. It's great to provide good content, useful certifications and skills, but at the end of the day, if there's not employment, it's not the same level of usefulness to the student. So we're trying to create a persistent record for students as they go through to be able to keep track of the classes they've done, the certifications they have, and if they want, then allow access to that to employers that they're interested in working for. So the employer has also a one-stop shop to see what students have done what training and have what certifications and are thereby qualified or of use to that company and what they're hiring for. Our current network, as we're sort of in pre-launch phase, has a handful of state lead schools. As you can see, California, Washington, online, and in Pennsylvania. We're working with a handful of nonprofits who have space-related, either virtual or in-person education content. And then in talks with a handful of employers to determine what is it that they would want to see from these students. So these employers are not necessarily providing content or anything other than the requirements of what they would want to see out of a trained or skilled worker on the other side. And as you might imagine, this network is not complete by any stretch of the imagination. And even what you're seeing here is not a full representation of the full network of schools and communities that are interested. But one thing I do want to highlight is that this is not a space-heavy set of schools and educators we're looking for. We're looking for those places that are the opposite of the stereotypical space school, not the Space Coast, but Lackawanna College that was founded by miners in Pennsylvania who wanted to educate themselves and better their futures. That's exactly the sort of story and message we want this network to have and resonate with. So with that, I'll close this presentation. If you want more info, you can reach out to me by email or phone, and I'd love to talk more. Thanks for having me today.